Now, the What the Farage moment, an extraordinary story. Ala Eldin, he's Syrian. He ran away from Syria because he didn't want to be conscripted. He came to the UK by dinghy in 2021. He then absconded from a migrant hotel to work in the illegal economy. He now finds himself living under that dinghy on Dover Beach. He's trying to get on the back of a lorry to get back into Europe because he doesn't want to stay here anymore, and the British authorities keep stopping him from going. And actually, this is a really funny one because we could just send him back to Syria. But Syria is on a list of countries that we do not deport people to, and we have no agreement with the European Union. And so despite the fact he wants to leave, he's stuck here. And we now have the really odd sight on TikTok of people who've illegally come to Britain, now illegally going back to Europe. Having said that, the percentage that go back is very, very small. Now, we asked the Home Office for a comment on this seemingly extraordinary case, and they said it is long-standing government policy that we do not routinely comment on individual cases. If an individual does not have the right to be in the UK, we'll make every effort to return to their country of origin or a safe third country. Yes, I know all of that. The point is, he's from Syria, and you don't deem Syria to be safe, and we have no third-party agreement. What a waste of space. Now, the row in the House of Commons yesterday, in some ways, it's a very Westminster story. You know, it doesn't affect the cost of living directly, but maybe it tells us something about our next potential Prime Ministers. Let's remind ourselves of what happened at Prime Minister's Questions yesterday.
But it's a bit rich, Mr. Speaker, to hear about promises from someone who's broken every single promise he was elected on. I mean, I think I counted almost 30 in the last year. Pensions, planning, peerages, public sector pay, tuition fees, childcare, second referendums, defining a woman. Although in fairness, that was only 99% of a U-turn.
Of all the weeks to say that, when Brianna's mother is in this chamber, shame, parading as a man of integrity when he's got absolutely no responsibility.
Oh, the level of moral indignation, and it was followed up on Twitter by Jess Phillips and many over the course of yesterday. Big demands that Sunak apologises. Let's have a look what he had to say.
Like everyone, I was completely shocked by Brianna's case. To have your child taken from you in such awful circumstances is almost impossible to come to terms with. To use that tragedy to detract from the very separate and clear point I was making about Keir Starmer's proven track record of multiple U-turns on major policies because he doesn't have a plan, I think is both sad and wrong, and it demonstrates the worst of politics.
Well, he's not apologising, and he's probably right not to apologise. Interesting, though, that Penny Mordaunt, favoured by some to be the next leader, seemed to think that he should apologise, but then she tends to be that way on these issues. What does it tell us about our leaders? Well, it says that what Starmer was doing was, frankly, using the murder of that young trans person, Brianna, to try and make a political point-scoring point in Prime Minister's Questions by saying, look, you know, there's the mother up in the gallery of the balcony. Something that Jacob Rees-Mogg pointed out to us was a completely against parliamentary rules. And I'll be asking him in quarter of an hour, I'll be asking Jacob, has the Speaker done anything to enforce the rules? I think this episode says more about Starmer than it does about Sunak. Now, the What the Farage moment to finish with. Coutts Bank. You'll remember Peter Flavel. He was the former CEO. Well, I got rid of him, along with Alison Rose. In fact, he was so arrogant, he didn't even bother to respond to my emails. But he clearly backed the policy, which was I had to be gotten rid of because I did not align with the views of the bank. I wasn't a climate change enthusiast and many other things. Well, after a 6-month gap, Coutts have now appointed a new boss. Her name is Emma Crystal, and she takes over. She's had a big job at UBS, other big jobs in private banking over the years, and she's been UBS's chief sustainability officer and executive sponsor of UBS's LGBT and ally network. So there we are. Coutts Bank clearly have learned absolutely nothing. And as far as I'm concerned, whilst I was angry about what was said in that subject access request, it was the consequent attempts just to try and brushed the whole thing over with a so-called inquiry that never, ever asked the right questions. The cover-up, in my view, in my case, was far worse than the crime, and it hasn't gone away. Please believe me. Now,